Today, as I have promised you earlier, I am going to discuss the themes and devices of the poem Voice Kind by Stephen Crane. And along with this lesson, I have merged another vital lesson for you, that is how to write a critical analysis. So both these lessons I am going to deal with together to show you how to process this writing activity and how to understand the themes and devices of the poem. So before I start, I would like to emphasize on what a critical analysis is. I know by this time you have studied so many works of literature, poetry, prose passages, maybe a part of a novel as well. So you have started studying all these works, and by now you have already written some critical analysis as well. But I want to make sure whether you are writing this in the correct manner, in the correct way. So, what is a critical analysis? A critical analysis shows your understanding about the particular literary work. How much you have understood the short story, or how much you have understood the poem or the novel. And not only your understanding, how much deeper you have dug into this particular piece of work. Whether you have taken out the devices, whether you have been able to interpret these devices well, whether you have taken the themes of it, whether you have applied these things into your general life. So these are the things that you have to show by writing a critical analysis. Is it important for us? Is writing a critical analysis important for us? Yes, why not? Because at the examination, you have to produce 4 essay type answers. I know that by now you know about the structure of the examination paper for the GCE OL examination. So there, in the second part of the question paper, you have to write 4 essays as the answers for 4 different questions. So these essays are to be produced within 30 minutes. So that is the big challenge you face. How to write such an essay, including all these facts, within 30 minutes. It's a big challenge. To face this challenge, we should be well prepared. We should be well equipped with the knowledge how to tackle this type of a question. So what about the mark allocation for this answer? For one essay type question, you get 15 marks. That means altogether for 4 essay type questions, you get 60 marks. So that is a big sum out of the 100 marks you'll be getting. So to get an A pass for the literature paper, it is vital to write good essays. So learning how to write a critical analysis is very important. So I'm going to discuss how to do this properly. And you need a lot of practice also for this. If you don't practice this, you won't master this art. So we'll see how to proceed. We'll take one question based on the poem War is Kind, and we'll see how to do this. In my presentation, I have planned to teach you the way of writing a critical analysis in 3 steps. So today in my video clip, I am going to handle only the first step of my writing process. So the first step is the planning and organization of the answer. To plan the answer, you need a pocket plan. So you'll wonder what this pocket plan is. Give me some time. I'm going to explain it to you properly, and then you will be able to catch up with it. So children, before I go to this explanation of the pocket plan, I will forward my question. So before you start writing an answer, there should be a question. So I have prepared a small question for you connected with the poem voice kind. So this is the question. How effectively does Stephen Crane present the dark reality of war through his poem Voice Kind? So that is the question I have set for you for this discussion. So when you get a question like this, an essay type question like this, what should you do first? Have you ever thought of that? The very first thing you have to do is to read the question really well. You have to read it, go through it very carefully and read it really well. Once is not enough, at least 3 times you have to read the question. While reading the question, you have to do another thing. This is also a very important part of the process of writing the answer. That is, you have to hunt for the keywords of the question. Keywords means the most important words that come inside the question. So we'll take this question and try to find out the keywords of the question. What do you think are the keywords of this question? Yes, I'm going to mark them. Before me, you can do it also. I'm lagging to give you a little bit of time. So did you mark the keywords of the question? So the keywords, so actually the key phrases of this question are, I mark them as, the first key phrase is the dark reality of war. That is my first key phrase, the most important phrase of the question. Then comes the other important phrase of the question, how effectively does the poet present this? So these are the key phrases of this question. So if you concentrate on these 2 phrases, you properly understand what the questionnaire asks from us. The person who questions from us needs from us. Okay, now we have found the key phrases of the question. Then we have to ponder, we have to think about these 2 key phrases a little bit before we start preparing the pocket plan. So to that you have to question from yourself. I get 2 questions out of these 2 key phrases. The first question I get is, what are the dark realities of war? Didn't you get that question? What are the dark realities of war? The second question I get is, how effectively is this dark reality presented by the poet? Okay, we'll go back to the first question once again. What are the dark realities of war? Now think a little bit about the poem, and you must remember, at the end of my earlier video clip, I have emphasized on 2 themes of the poem. I did not mention them as themes, but I have emphasized on these 2 strong points of the poem. One point I have showed you as the suffering of human beings, and the other important point I have showed you is the brutality of war. So these are the 2 key themes of the poem. So what are the dark realities the poet is emphasizing by this poem? They are the themes of the poem. One is the suffering of human beings, and the other one is the brutality of war, how rough war is, how rude war is. So these are the two themes. So did you understand, children? By the first question I have formed, we are talking about the 2 themes, and then we'll have to find out how effectively has the poet been able to give these 2 ideas into the heart of the reader. So how does he do so? How does he emphasize on the brutality of war? How does he emphasize on the human suffering because of war? How does he actually do these things? By the use of devices. Okay, we'll see how each theme is supported by the use of devices within the poem. So we'll take the first theme. How is suffering of humans brought in? The suffering of humans. How is this theme brought in by the use of devices? We'll take the first device. The first device I meet under this theme is the repetition. You call it refrain as well. Repetition or refrain. So what are the repeated lines of the poem? Can you think of it a bit? Do not weep, woe is kind. Repeated throughout. How many times did you count? 5 times. Do not weep, woe is kind. 5 times repeated. So what does the poet try to emphasize by saying so? The poet tries to emphasize that woe is a reason for weeping. Weeping is the result of woe. So that is human suffering, isn't it so? So woe is kind, we know, is paradoxical. It is the other way around. It is the other side of the coin. Woe is kind. No, woe is unkind. Woe is not kind. So that phrase is being repeated 5 times. And also another repeated line. A field where 1,000 corpses lie. A field where 1,000 corpses lie. Does it not touch your heart? Does it not tell you how these innocent humans are being killed mercilessly like cats and dogs inside the battlefield? Thousands and thousands of them. Can you just imagine how these corpses lie on the field where these battles are fought? That is so inhuman. So that touches the humanity of a human being. The next repeated line, born to drill and die. These men who are born to drill and die. I told you how this affects us. We know that these men are fathers inside the uniform. We know that these men are lovers inside the uniform. We know that these men are sons inside the uniform. So how can we call them that they are born to drill and die, meet their death at the battlefield? That is so inhuman. That provokes the humanity which lies inside us, which lies deep inside us. So these are the repetitive lines or repetitive phrases we find in the poem to evoke humanity, to show how humans are suffering. So that is repetition. So the second device that comes under this theme is the device visual images. The poet uses a whole pack of visual images to show the human suffering. What are they? Can you think of them? At one time, he talks about a field where 1,000 corpses lie. We get the visual inside our mind. We see dead bodies lying everywhere in different postures, in different ways, blood everywhere. So that pathetic picture, that brutal picture is being created in front of our very eyes. That is the visual image produced by that line. Then we get the visual image of a lover, not just a soldier. A lover is dying. How does he die there? Yes, the lover threw wild hands towards the sky, and his affrighted steed ran on alone. Steed, the horse, a frightened steed, when the lover threw his wild hands towards the sky. Why? Maybe incapable of controlling the hands, or maybe he surrendered, or maybe he just was angry about the whole system. Maybe he was angry about the God above us. Why he was not given the chance to be united with his lover? Why his life is not beautiful for him? So he might have been very angry. So he threw his hands wild towards the sky, and he fell down from his horse, and the horse ran on alone. Didn't you get that picture? Was it not like a clip from a movie? So that visual image is being created in your mind by the words of by the clever description of the poet. Another visual image. Did you not see the father tumbling into the yellow trench and raged at his breast and tried to swallow, tried to drip in difficulty and just died there inside the trench? Didn't you get that visual? I'm sure you got it. And also the son, while the mother is crying, just seated next to the body of her son, the dead body of the son, clad in pompous decorative uniform, very much paradoxical to the scene created, lying there. Is it not a pathetic image? So these visual images are being created inside the mind of the reader. So the poem is very rich with visual imagery. Then the third device, alliteration. Where do you find alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound. Do you find an alliterated line in the poem? Yes, I got one particular place where the poet has been very much effective in conveying the suffering of the human being. So that line or actually that phrase is mother whose heart hung humble as a button. So within this line, that phrase, those particular three words, heart, hung, humble. When you go on saying this phrase, how do you feel? Heart hung humble. Your heart is emptied. With the three sighings with the three deep breaths you exhale to pronounce these three words. Heart hung humble. Your heart becomes empty. There's nothing inside your heart. By the word heart I mean the lungs, but in literature you don't call them lungs. We just refer to them as heart because it is more beautiful, it is more touching. So your heart is emptied with the utterance of these three words together. Heart hung humble. You are sighing continuously. Ha, ha, ha. You are sighing continuously. So whose suffering is indicated by these three strong sighs? That is the suffering of the mother with the loss of her son. Not just a normal son, the young heroic son, the young strong and brave son. The mother has lost him. So that shows, that alliterated phrase shows the suffering of the mother. That is alliteration. Device number 4, simile. Did you find the simile in the same line? So the poet says, mother whose heart hung humble as a button. So this phrase, of course, I have explained in my earlier video clip. So the heart is equal to a button. So that is the simile used. So why the heart is equal to a button? Heart shows the feelings, the emotions. Emotions are very much insignificant as a button of a proud looking uniform. Okay, so shall we move on to the next theme? So under this theme I have discussed 4 devices which promotes the theme, the suffering of the human mind. So the second theme I have emphasized is the theme of the brutality of war. So the poet has dwelled more on the brutality of war by the second and the fourth stanzas. So we'll go to the next device under this theme, that is device number 5, personification. So what is being personified here in the poem? Yes, what is being personified? War is being personified. War is being given life. War is treated as a living thing because the poet says war is kind, just as a man, just as a creature, a kind creature. War is a kind creature. What is the idea you get? Yes, surely it is in the ironical sense. The poet is being very much sarcastic in saying this. War is something full of life and it is kind. You have to think about it the other way round. This living thing is really unkind, not kind. So in an ironical sense, the poet is using personification even as the title of the poem to grab hold of the attention of the reader. We just stop there and think, is war kind? So we feel like going through the whole poem to find out what the poet has meant by saying this. So that is a technique that poet has used to grab the interest of the reader. Second device, under this, device number, I think, 6, device number 6, irony and sarcasm. They go close in hand. So irony and sarcasm, as I told you earlier, is being created by the phrase war is kind. That is being discussed already now. And the next phrase you get is unexplained glory. The poet says the glory you achieve through war is unexplained. Nobody understands this. Nobody knows what glory lies there in killing each other. But every one of us say that victory of a war is glorious. We feel proud, we celebrate, and we remember all those long ago fought wars, and we include them in our history books, and we repeatedly we remember those things, and we tell the next generation also, this was how those people had fought for us. So this process happens every day at all times, and there's no end to this. People glorify war, and the poet says this glory is not understandable. It is not comprehended by anyone. We just stick to it, holding to this blind belief of glory of war. So that is being said by the phrase unexplained glory. Another example, great is the battle god, the poet says, and then he adds, where 1,000 corpses lie. So if the battle god is great, why could not he save the thousands and thousands of lives of these innocent people who had died at the battlefield? So that is also irony, because gods are very powerful. That's how we believe. They can do wondrous things. So when we are destitute, we rely on them. So the gods had also been unable to stop this brutality of war. Another example, the poet says at another place, virtue of slaughter and excellence of killing. Even a child knows that killing is not virtuous, that killing is not good. Even a child knows. And slaughtering is also not excellent. So that is also in an ironical sense. The next device is the cinematic presentation. Cinematic presentation is the way the writer has made us feel by presenting the facts as if we are watching a film. Everything is being displayed in front of our eyes, just like in a film. Here the poet has been able to create 3 different video clips of a lady lover, a little baby, and of a mother who cry and mourn over the death of their loved ones. So they are so vulnerable, they are so desperate that we feel really empathetic towards these 3 people, these 3 representatives of the indirect victims of war. And we remember other indirect victims of war who surround us in plenty in the society. And not only that, the poet has been able to create the true picture of the battlefront as well, by mentioning of the lover, the soldier lover, how he died He threw his wild hands towards the sky. Maybe he could not control his hands, or maybe he could not tolerate the burden that came into his mind, remembering his lover at the time of his death, or maybe he surrendered. Whatever it had been, he fell from the horse, and the frightened horse ran on alone. Is it not just like a clip in a movie? Yes, it is. And also the father who tumbled down into the yellow trenches, raging at his breast, gulping and dying. The entire picture is being created just in front of our eyes. So this is how the poet has been able to create that movie-like image, the cinematic presentation within our hearts while we read the poem. And also the next device is the auditory image. The poet has been able to create the sound of the battlefield, especially the sound of the drums, which invites you to war, which gives you a high spirit to join in the battle, to join in the process of freeing your country for the sake of the future generation. You are invited, and that sound is unpleasant, hoarse, rough, because war is rough. So that shows the brutality of war. And the final device I'm going to touch upon is symbolism, which I have explained in the earlier video clip as well. The symbolism, for example, the crest of red and gold. Red symbolizing blood and gold symbolizing glory. Blood and glory in par with each other, together at parallel. Blood and glory, how can it be? Here's the final product of the pocket plan for the question forwarded. With this, now you have properly organized your answer. You know what you are going to write. You'll have to practice preparing pocket plans for all essay questions you tackle until the day you'll be able to organize the points in your mind within about 5 minutes or less. Now we have finished the discussion on themes and techniques, and now you are well equipped with the pocket plan. The pocket plan is there in your hand. You are all set to write the essay type answer. And after referring to this pocket plan with all the details included, you can organize your answer really well. So in our next video clip, we'll be looking into the way how to develop paragraph by paragraph with the introduction, body and the conclusion. Till then, bye bye.